Hey, it's Diego with Aim Shoot Develop, and today there's a camera I'm really excited to talk to you guys about. I've covered 3 lens cameras like the ImageTech 3D, 4 lens cameras like the Nishika N8000, and here's the N9000, which I'll get to in another video. I have an 8 lens camera, the Cardia Rensha by Fuji, but today I'm going to jump the gun and just go straight to it. 16 lens. This is the Fujifilm Byu-N 16 frames, all in one deal. It's very fun. I can't wait to get into this. I did run a few rolls through this camera, so you're going to see the photo examples throughout the video, so stay tuned to check those out. If you're new to this channel, I did do a similar camera video where I shot my Nikon F5 full auto, and I got the same effect as this plastic little point and shoot. So you can imagine my excitement when it came down to this. I'll put a link to the F5 video so you can see what I did, but we're going to talk about this one today. So consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. I like getting information out there to people just getting into it so they make an informed decision about what camera to buy or something that they can add to their existing camera bag. Also, check out my Instagram, Aim Shoot Develop, by the same name as the YouTube channel. I post a lot of the stuff earlier on there as kind of teasers, so you get a glimpse of what the YouTube video is going to be about that I'm putting out that week. This camera was released in 1995, and why you don't see it as often as something like the Nishika N8000 is this was a Japan-only release. You see the Japanese text on the back. Just like the Nishika N8000, it does take 2 frames at a time, 8 on one side and 8 on the other. So you'll get 8 images on one exposure. The lenses fire from bottom left to top right, so it goes. It was originally made back in the day as a camera to critique someone's golf swing. Obviously video wasn't as prevalent, so if you had photos of somebody doing their swing, you can maybe send it to a professional or someone knows what they're doing, and they can critique you about what you're doing wrong. But with the digital age of Photoshop and Adobe products, you can pretty much pop this in there and you can piece all of those images that are taken in sequence, and you can make them into an animation like this. This camera is jam-packed with features, and it does have what's considered a normal mode. So if you just push this golf button down, it goes and normally goes straight through the images or the exposures. There isn't any translation for the manual, unfortunately. It's also in Japanese, but I'm going off the pictures plus of my own personal experience of using this camera. There is also a fast mode which shoots the shutters a lot faster, capturing motion. This is what I used for a lot of the photos that I took on this roll. There is a self-timer button and a tripod mount, so you can just go ahead and put it on a tripod, wait for the cue, and then perform your golf swing for the lone photographer or the lone golfer, maybe the same person, that wants to perfect their swing but doesn't have any homies to help them out. There is one mode that always gets me. It's 15+1. I obviously have this little printout or pamphlet that shows what it is, but it basically critiques your golf swing, and then you have a chance to photograph the golfer itself. So this is one of those, if you're doing like a tournament or something back in the day, it was a way to get their swing and also to remember which golfer had actually done that swing. Really clever. And last but not least, one of my favorite modes of this camera is the 1 at a time. So it's just +1. You can just go ahead and keep pushing it down, and it'll get to the 16 exposures and then push it towards the next of the roll. So as I was saying, if you were to take 8 images on one and then the 16 for both of the frames, you'd get 16 images. On a 24 exposure roll, you would get 192 images. That's a lot of bang for your buck. If you were to get a 36 exposure roll, you could get 288 images, which is just ridiculous that you can get that many images off of one little plastic camera. I did develop the film here at home, but you can also get it sent out to a film lab. In the description or instructions, you can go ahead and put to keep them solid frames and keep them intact. I don't imagine a film lab wanting to manually scan 288 images. It did come with these stickers that I guess you can put on the film canister, and it did remind me of the stickers that I actually had on my Nishika N8000 that did similar things, saying go ahead and keep them intact and then you can divvy them up as you please. The size of each individual frame on this camera is actually really small. It makes 110 film look like 120 film. That's a film joke. Although the camera does have a fixed lens that you can shoot at f9, you can actually get a really good image out of it. I mean, you can probably blow them up to a normal 4x5 size and you can get some pretty cool results. Since it's really small size, the grain is really chunky and it just looks really vintage. So anything you shoot will pretty much be aged 20 years. It looks actually really cool. One little pro tip here, the 4th, 5th, 8th, and 9th frame on this camera are actually a little bit larger than the rest of the exposures. So if you're doing the one at a time frame button, you're going to get a little bit larger of an exposure. You can use that to your advantage composing images. So on the back here, it just says ISO 400 and ISO 800, one of the very few things in English that are actually on this camera. But I went with the ISO 400, and on ISO 800, which I do actually recommend, you're going to get much more light coming in because of the fixed lenses. You need a ton of light coming in to go ahead and get those proper images. So I personally recommend ISO 800 in perfect daylight in outside setting. Lastly, some things that just make sense with this camera. When you go ahead and close the front of it, it does pop up a little flag telling you when you're looking through the viewfinder that this camera is not on. I think that's really clever. I sometimes forget to turn on my Nikon Light Touch, so sometimes you're looking through it, it's not on. You wait for it to power on, then you take the picture. It tells you up and quickly that nope, it's no go. Really, really smart. Even though it's in full Japanese, this camera is really intuitive and it shows you what mode you're in and how it functions on each individual mode. I think that's really clever how it utilizes the display to also teach. Every time you push the shutter down, it advances the frame counter by 2 instead of 1. So on the Nishika, you go up to, on a 24 roll, you go up to 12. On this one, you go to the true 24 exposure, or 36 if you have it in that roll. That's just one of those smart things. I actually did it wrong the first time, so I only got half the roll. That was my bad, and I couldn't actually read the instructions that it came with, but you live and learn. Aesthetically, it's a gorgeous camera. I actually really like this color. I wish they did more cameras like this where it's just out there. It does have the golf ball for the button, and just the cool little branding of the golf people, and I don't know, you just look at it and you know something special about it. The only faults that I have is that it's not a go everywhere camera, meaning obviously there's no flash or flash port, and the more I thought about it, I'm like, why doesn't it actually have one? Then you really think about it, and it's just like, it would have to fire 16 times continuously to get a proper exposure at night, and that's probably not gonna happen. You can imagine that actually being a nightmare for the subject and the photographer. But since it's a specialty golf camera, it actually makes sense. You usually play golf in the bright sunshine, so they knew what they were doing. I don't even know how to explain this, but this camera is the literal poster child of Sunny 16. Only in sunshine, 16 lenses. They should have just called it that. Other than the flash thing, this thing is a golden child. It has a lot of features, a lot of things jam-packed in this little small pocketable design. Pocketable in the most sense. Obviously it's not Olympus Mu, but in the grand scheme of things. You can shoot 288 images, or if you want to follow it up with an animation, you can just go ahead and push it down. One of the things that I want to do with this camera is single frame panoramas. So you go ahead and get a part of an image, take a picture, move it a little, take a picture, and then just follow it as you follow the top of the display. So you get a nice vast image. I'll try to put an example up on screen. But again, it's just one of those things, once you have it in your hands, your ideas start cooking up in your brain and be like, how can I utilize this to the best of my ability? I feel like this camera is going to be the trendy camera really soon. It just takes one YouTuber to pretty much hype it up. I don't think that's me. I honestly think these things are sick, but you're going to see somebody hype it up and just be like, this is the camera to get. And I would be there the whole time saying, yeah, I recommend it. Last thing I wanted to cover with this camera is the cost, because I've been hyping it up all day and then I'm kind of having to sell it to you. I actually paid $200 for this camera, for the camera, the box, and a couple of little pamphlets and the strap. But I honestly think for the utility that you get out of this camera, it's actually worth it. You can enjoy it as a simple point and shoot. You can do animations with it, which I think is fantastic. You know, it's really more convenient than my Nikon F5. And the fact that you can switch between one to multiple modes, so it's not just a one-trick pony. Overall, I'm just blown away. That's my review for this camera. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. This camera had taken the spot of my lomography spinner, which I do have a YouTube video talking about as well. So go check out some of those other videos. I have tons of content just like this posted currently on my YouTube, and there's more to come. Obviously, I talked about the Nishika 9000, which is a future video. So go ahead and like and subscribe so this information gets to other photographers so we can watch this passion grow. Also, if you wanted to reach out on my Instagram, Aim Shoot Develop, on questions about this camera or any of the other cameras on my Instagram or YouTube, you can go ahead and feel free to reach out. I have no problem talking some cameras with people. So that's pretty much the video. Keep shooting film. Take care. Peace.